Hey, it's TJ. How you doing? Thanks for joining me. Today we're taking a look at the new Arturia V Collection 8. An awesome update to the V Collection. There's a lot to look at here. There are updates to the instruments, updates to the Analoge Lab, updates to the user interfaces of existing instruments, and even more incredibly, there are 3 brand new instruments to check out. So we're going to take a look at those really quick. This is not really a deep dive, we're just going to do a quick overview of the instruments, so hang on tight. If you like the video, please do share it and subscribe to this channel. Check out tjontheroad.com for more. I thank you so much for your support. Let's get started. First up is the new Analoge Lab. This is the new Analoge Lab look. Just as a reference, this is the old Analoge Lab look. Whereas the old one, you had all the presets in the middle. You had the picture of the Arturia controller type thing at the bottom. And then you have here the filters over here. With the new Analoge Lab, you have all the instruments that are available on the top. And then you have the ability to sort them by type. You can have your Arturia sound banks here. And you can sort them by the designers. So you get to know their pretty faces. Let's just pick one in here. Let's say, for example, the CS80. Okay. Pick one of these. So you can go through all of your presets here. You can go to the studio view, where you can change the effects. And the stage view, I'll show you that a little bit later. That's where you can actually create a performance for live playing. Go back to here. This is the store. If you purchased anything from Arturia's store, that'll show up here. In the library section here, it'll give you the recently played, linked presets, where they're linked to more than one device, presets that are saved, and your own banks of presets, user banks. And these are playlists that can be created, and those can be created in the stage view here. So you can actually create different banks. Turn that off. Say, for example, if you want to create different playlists for live playing. Next in line of feature upgrades is how the advanced settings are presented in the user interface with many of the different instruments. Not all, but many. In the old, say, for example, Stage 73, and on all the instruments that were in the V Collection 7, you had to click this little arrow here to get to some of the advanced features. And that would open up, in this case, the velocity curve window here, and this panel, which you could use to set the different, tuning settings and dynamics and so forth. And then below here, you had, the pictures of the amps and the pedals that you would make changes on. Say, for example, on the phaser here. Now, I always thought this was a little difficult to read myself, and the word to grab onto. So what they've done with the new Stage 73 and all the other new V Collection 8 is they have this advanced button here instead of the arrow. And now you have this big window here to do your velocity curves. And then all of the settings, instead of them being in a panel here, they are here in this section, and it makes it much easier to see as well as to use. And then they have a separate FX section here, which you can use for the amp, the reverb, and all the other effects. So much easier to see and to use, particularly in this case for the Stage 73. Now, not all of the V Collection instruments have this type of change, but this one in particular does, as well as some others. All right, now to the most exciting update. They have come out with a brand new version of the Jup-8, the emulation of the Jupiter 8. This is a brand new version. This is the 4th version of it. Let me bring in the old version, version 3. to make a comparison. Now, the biggest difference that they worked on is the sound between the two. I think that many people had said that the version here wasn't as authentic to the original sound of the Jupiter 8. They've worked a lot on the sound. I think they've done a great job here. Some of the other differences is some of the UI differences, particularly. You're looking at the banks and the presets were down on here, similarly to the way it was on the panel of the actual hardware synthesizer, the vintage hardware synth. And you had the arpeggio over here. If you come over here, they've moved the arpeggiator on this side, and they've given you some additional options for that. And now, instead of having the presets over here, and also they were available up here, you have them up here. And it looks much more like the Analoge Lab version, the new update. Some other changes include, let's close these out. Some other changes include, as you'll see, this still has the arrow. This is the old version. When you open it up to the advanced functions, it had what they called the Galaxy here, and it had the sequencer. They had 2 keyboard scalings for velocity and aftertouch, and this very simple effects section. They've done a lot of work here with the advanced functions. You have, now it's called modulations, much more available to you, a lot more cross modulations that are available. Very, very cool with this modulation mixer. The sequencer is also more extensive with a larger screen. You have a note sequencer as well as a mod sequencer. Very, very cool. The keyboard has scaling for velocity, aftertouch, as well as the mod wheel and tracking. And the effects has a much improved user interface. Very, very deep update here. They really went through it, particularly, with a fine-tooth comb, I guess you could say. And they've really actually worked on the sound. And this is one of the things I think that people are really going to like. All right, let's get into the new stuff. First up is the Jun-6 V. The Jun-6 emulation. A lot of people have been looking for this. I've been asking for it. I think this is really, really cool. Now, the original Jun-6 was a pretty basic synth, and I think that Arturia has tried to keep it that way on purpose, because this is going to be the synth I think that people can really gravitate to if they want to make some basic sounds. If you're not that into advanced sound design, this is the one that you want to be able to use. So they've kept it very, very basic and very pure to the original synth, but there is some still advanced features. Very much like the original synth layout. You have an arpeggio, an LFO, the original DCO, high pass, low pass filter, VCA, and envelope, and then the 3 chorus selections. You have this additional panel here where you can select the quality of the voice calibration. If you want it loose, you can make it loose. If you want it very tight, you can make it tight. So all of the voices stay together and or not, whatever you prefer. You have your unison mode here, portamento. So this is very much like the original hardware Juno 8. Now let's go to the advanced functions. The advanced functions only added just a few things. It adds some assignments here for the mod wheel, velocity, and aftertouch. It gives you an additional LFO and an additional envelope, delay, and reverb. That's it. It's very, very basic. This is the best kind of synth that you want to be able to work with. If you're not familiar with synthesizers, this is a great place to learn. All right, the next new instrument up is the Emulator II V, an awesome emulation of the EMU emulator. Very, very cool. This here is actually a really powerhouse sample player. It has a lot of great features. The panel itself is pretty basic. Really doesn't actually look very much like the original hardware, but has some basic controls, the master control section, filter, LFO, VCA, arpeggiator, and effects. The real power is if you look into the screen here, whoa, and you have the ability to actually loop and edit your different samples. You can transpose, detune them, set the gain, the direction, all kinds of editing functions here. you can set the filter. Now, the filter does retain the characteristics of the original EMU emulator, so that's very, very cool. LFO settings and the VCA. You'll see here, these are all the different samples that are available in this given preset, which is a drum kit. That's my finger drumming there. And you can assign them across the keyboard in both the key as well as the velocity. So really, really powerful editing features, and you can set the controls individually for them. And then you have the effects section here. So you can have 3 effects in either series or parallel. Go back to the edit section. You can browse all of these really awesome samples. There are tons of them. Tons of samples in here. These are all the drum samples. Oh, I don't know. Let's go look into, say, cello and violin. Tons of samples in here. Strings, bassoons, all kinds of great stuff. And you can load your own user samples, which is very, very cool. And the other great feature here that I find really amazing, particularly with this instrument, is there are tons of presets in there, and they all sound really, really terrific. These are just the drums. If I clear them all out, tons and tons and tons of presets. They really had a big sample party and included them all in here. So the Emulator II V is truly a powerhouse sampler that they've added to the V Collection. Definitely something to check out. All right, next up on the new instruments within the V Collection 8, this is actually my favorite one. It is the Vocoder V. Very, very cool. I'm going to jump right into the advanced functions here to show you that you can do so much with this. It can either be a sample player or you can do live voice input with this. Very, very cool. As the sample player, you can do all kinds of different things, such as, in this case, it's doing a round robin of different samples.
Generator, oscillator, synchronizer, synthesizer.
Or you can actually play different samples across the keyboard. You can do a lot with this. I don't want to go too far into it. It'll take too much time. But you can do voice input with this. This is my voice into the vocoder. Oh my God. You can actually load in your own samples. Let's see here. I'll find one of my presets here. So lots of fun with this. It has a ton of controls. It has the vintage look with it. You have the ability to set the voice, the synthesis. You can set the different filtering here, the bandpass filters. It does have a listing here of classic, like double cluster inverted, or the single cluster inverted settings. Or you can just blank that out. You have the classic, bounce between the hiss and the buzz, setting the dry signal against the vocoder signal, and down here are all of your synth parameters. I really, really enjoy this particular instrument. I've used it a lot in my given recordings, and if you've watched my videos, you may have heard this instrument being played in a couple of videos, but didn't know what it was. So I've enjoyed this very, very much, and I think it's really the best of all of the new instruments that Arturia has added to the collection. All right, just quickly, you have, like all their other instruments, you have their mods. You have an envelope follower, very, very cool, an LFO. You have the ability to assign sources and destinations. There's 6 of those here. And you also have an effects section. Well, hey, that's it. It's Arturia's V Collection 8, an awesome update over the V Collection 7. Well worth the upgrade. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Please do share it, subscribe to the channel, check out tjontheroad.com for more. I so much appreciate your support. I will see you next time.